Welcome back to The Weird and the Wonderful with Strange Bones. So, as we get started for the day, we are starting something slightly new, which I think may or may not be interesting. It comes out of a mix of things which is pretty cool. Just plain weird but interesting, and in some cases slightly paranormal. So hopefully we'll be able to cover all of it. If not, we will make it into a double live. So welcome to everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic evening, and as we get started, I am going to remind everybody that on this channel we make a point that we only have one rule, and that is don't be rude. We ask that you are respectful of everything. We do not promote anything and we do not deride anything. We do it purely and for our own interesting and education and for our own curiosity. So yeah, that is our aim on this channel, and we encourage you to agree or disagree as you feel is fit, as long as you're polite about it. Comment as much as you like, because they are free and we want lots and lots of them. Share and subscribe as you are so moved. And with all of that said, grab yourself a decent cup of coffee and hopefully you will enjoy the weird and the wonderful. And in this edition, strange geography. So let's get started. And Spooky, how are you doing? I hope that you are in fine and fabulous form. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting one, I think. We shall see. Much thanks for those likes. I do appreciate it very, very greatly. Likes, I do appreciate it very greatly. Likes, I do. There we go. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hope you are well.
Yeah, life is good. Have you got a good cup of coffee going?
So what are we talking about?
Well, there are a couple of things to consider. Some of them are just interesting and weird, and some of them are slightly paranormal, but we're doing places because and in the last live I was thinking of that cave, which is so particularly cool. So I thought I'd go and have a look around and see what other strange places might be around, geological things, and then strange things connected to particular places. There's a fair bit on the Grand Canyon, which I think might be quite interesting.
So things that formed naturally or
Well, I suppose you could argue. Certainly the geologists tend to say it's natural, but there are those who might say it's not. So we shall see what we think on each thing. They range around from the Giant's Causeway to the Fairy Chimneys to the Chocolate Hills and the Cave of Crystals, all of which sounds pretty damn cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's out there and whether or not we think it really is natural or if there was supernatural or alien influence in it, or maybe some ancient civilization. We never know. We shall see. But we're going to start with the non-paranormal stuff, which will include, of course, the Fairy Chimneys, the Stone Forest, the Muraki Boulders, which sounds particularly good, Giant's Causeway, of course, as I said, the Rikat structure, which I think is going to be something to talk about as well, rather interesting one. The Spotted Lake, The Blood Falls, and The Door to Hell, all of which sound very intriguing indeed. So we've got a couple to consider, and I think that it will be worth looking at all of them. So let's throw up one of the ones we will get to later. I'll put up behind me in due course, because it's just cool. But first, let us consider if... Wow, the internet is slow today.
Yeah, I've noticed the battery.
Yeah, okay, so the fairy chimneys. The fairy chimneys are found in Cappadocia in Turkey, and they are a unique, tall, cone-shaped rock formation which, according to geologists, are sculpted by millions of years of erosion from soft volcanic rock, capped with harder stone, creating strange mushroom-like tops. So essentially a stone forest of mushrooms. What's really interesting is that they were carved into homes and monasteries, giving the rise to fairies living within them, and another magical destination. And one, incidentally, which I think I can say I would like to do, famous for its hot air balloon rides over it, so you can look down and see all the things, which sounds pretty damn cool right off. They are said to be formed from volcanic eruptions with layers of ash, lava and basalt. Wind and water wore away the softer rock, leaving the harder caps. But over the centuries, they have been used as homes, churches, and entire subterranean cities. Now, we know for fact that certain human people have used them for homes and dwellings, but the legends say originally the Perith lived in the chimneys, a kind of Turkish fairy that apparently built these houses before people came around, and they say, at least, the magic remains there of these fairies, and people report strange sounds and lights around. How true that is, I don't know. But we also know that in certain areas there's a particular one known as Pasabag, which is translated as the Monk's Valley, where quite literally they made monasteries in them, which is pretty damned cool. Of course, now it is a World Heritage Site and is protected because of it. But yeah, I like the idea of the fairies. Now, the landscape is particularly alien. If you can imagine a completely dry and desolate place where suddenly you have these stone mushrooms big enough to live in, it's pretty impressive. So yeah, a rather strange sort of a situation.
I don't have eyes.
You don't have?
Can you hear me?
Ah, there we go. You went off for a second.
Yeah, I think it's your internet.
I think it is. I've been struggling a bit all day.
Yeah, no, I was asking, you are talking about the forest.
I'm talking about, well, they call it a forest, but it isn't one. It just looks like a forest of mushrooms, but very big mushrooms. Big enough you could build a house in it, which is pretty damn cool. Now, as you,
this place.
this place is real. It's in Cappadocia in Turkey, in the central Anatolia region. It's very dry, which makes it even weirder looking. Sort of, kind of like almost an anthill big enough for people to be the ants. And what really is interesting is that the kind of rock that it is changes color as the light changes. So it changes color through the day and it glows under a full moon. So you can see why they call it fairy chimneys. And of course, along with it, the names of the local places are just really cool. So you have the Sword Valley and the Rose Valley.
Images now, and they don't look like you. They look more like spikes.
Yeah, sort of. They do have these sort of mushroom tops, depending on which bit you're looking at. But I mean, very otherworldly, which is quite cool. And many of them do have sort of hat type things on. I think I've got quite a nice picture here that I might be able to pop up and show you, the one that rather intrigued me. Let's do that quick. Dunk. And let's see if it will allow me to put it up. Just for the record, none of these are my pictures. Hey, Safe MJ. Long time no see indeed. Happy New Year to you too. Thank you very, very much. I do appreciate that. Yeah, that's one of the areas, but it's quite a large area, Spooky. So it seems different bits have different sort of. So what you've got up is the bit that they call the Sword Valley. So like spiky swords. Then there's the Rose Valley,
So
which
trying to find
is all sort of pink and what
there's
have you.
mushroom top. So,
Now they want me to. Oh Lord! I'm trying to put the picture up, and they've changed how it's done, which means I immediately can't do it. Don't you love it when they do that? Effects. I want the green screen. Where's the green screen? Oh, TikTok. Why don't you leave things working as they work so we can actually do stuff? Actually do stuff. They've successfully changed where they put things.
yeah.
And immediately now we can't find what we're actually looking for. So background is where we want to go, except we want to add in, do we not? Dear Lord. Oh, there we go. They've changed the names of things as well. Just to,
If
you
you
know.
cover your camera, then you can see the full image.
There we go. That's what I was looking for. Bonk. Nope, it doesn't like it. It says the resolution's not high enough. Oh, okay. But yes, so that what you've got up looks like part of the Rose Valley, and then
Yeah,
there's
family
an
forest. That's what I
yeah,
said.
then there's other places where they're more mushroom-like. So they've got like caps on top of them, which is pretty damn cool as well. So, as we know, Cappadocia was part of the Silk Road back in the day, which is rather interesting. So, Marco Polo himself would have checked things out. But amongst there is Derinkuyu, a labyrinthine underground complex of 18 levels of tunnels 85 meters below the ground. That was an entire city that they used to hide from the Phrygians, but the Phrygians didn't get fooled and they came in and found them anyway. But nevertheless, the idea of it being a fairy city is something that I think definitely makes it suitably weird and wonderful. Yeah, check that out. You got a good picture there. That's a nice one. I do like that. Um, but all in all, it's a very sort of moon landing type landscape out there, which just adds to the entire thing. So your Rose Valley monastic area has, well, to this day, monasteries that are still lived in, that are cut into the rock. Of course, we do know as well that there was a point where there were a lot of Greeks in Turkey and a lot of Turkish in Greece, and at one point, for reasons political, they took all the Turks in Greece and put them back into Turkey, and took all the Greeks out of Turkey and stuck them into Greece again. And that sort of threw everything for a bit of a twist. And I believe Derinkuyu is one of the cities that the Turks then inhabited, because of it was a whole thing to do with like a nationalist movement in a weird kind of way. And I think it was one of those projects which on paper looked great, but in reality didn't work quite as well as it ought to. But there you go. They are 5,000-year-old cities, which is pretty damn cool. Some say that it would have gone completely... No, look, Spooky, you're not wrong there. You are absolutely correct in that regard. There was a guy that started doing it, but to my great disappointment, they buggered off on me, which was rather sad. So, yeah, the person that I had, I no longer do, which is kind of sad to me.
And how did he do it? Did he join your channel?
Yes, he joined my channel, and he was like a, how can I say, what do they call it, when that he could put people on, take people off, do the whole lot. A moderator.
Okay.
Yeah. So that would have made things a lot easier, especially seeing as every time I learn to do something, they change how it's done and then can't do it anymore. Go figure. and then they changed the rules. But nevertheless, speaking of stone structures, not only in Turkey do we find these strange things, and huge thanks for all the likes that are coming up. I appreciate it massively.
Can I ask you about some stone structure?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay, but it's going to be probably there. Do you think the statues of Rome are actually victims of Medusa?
The Mitkins of what?
The stone structures or the stone statues
Yeah.
of Rome are actually victims of Medusa.
You know, funnily enough, that's actually something people have asked before, based on the fact that they are certainly anatomically speaking pretty damn good as statues go. I mean, they do look very real, don't they? So you can't help but wonder, and at least in my head, yes. Is there any evidence of that? Sadly, no. Though I will tell you, before we decide no, there's a statue in Tibet of a monk, and they found this statue, and they thought, great, it's a statue of some ancient holy man, very, very great. And then they were doing tests on it to determine age and, all the things that archaeologists and ethnologists and whatever do. And they discovered it wasn't a statue at all. In fact, it was a monk who had undergone a special ritual mummification that's done while you're still alive. And it was kind of like his tomb because he was still inside the statue. And they suddenly realized a number of these Tibetan statues were not statues at all. And it doesn't get creepier than that. Now, the legend says that these monks are not dead. By achieving this deep meditative state, that they can live for centuries inside these statues. Now, is it physically possible? Well, according to any modern science, no. But imagine if you opened up one of these weird statues and it opened its eyes. I mean, right there. That would make you rethink your career. Let's be fair. I mean, that definitely would be the basis for an amazing horror movie, and I approve greatly. Nevertheless, our next spot, which is of great interest, is in China, and I think it's a cool one. And Shilin, and a very interesting set of formations in Shilin-Yi in the Yunnan province of China. It's about 90 kilometers east of the provincial capital of Kunming, and basically they are like stalagmites in a way. I think they call them karst towers in the geological world, but basically many of them look just like petrified trees, though apparently they're not, but they're these great stone towers in this forest out there, which is really incredible.
Sorry, before you went on to the next subject, I wanted to quickly show you something and ask you about this statue that you saw.
Go ahead.
You've seen this statue before?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's quite old.
It is, yes.
Okay. Would you like to see a statue that was created in South Africa in 2023?
Okay, go. Now I'm curious. Okay.
Yeah, this is a statue of Winnie Mandela.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so
Possibly.
Winnie Mandela in 2023.
Who
Yeah,
made
this is
that?
a Roman statue.
Yeah, I'm just going to say, in terms of art, the Romans kind of have the edge.
Yeah, they did a much better job. They've got so many good art, and if I just have to scroll through them, they've they've got lots of good statues. I like.
Absolutely. But I mean, we know Italy is famous for its sculptures. They really do some of the most amazing sculpture work. And I mean, Michelangelo, there's a sculpture, is it a sculpture? Yeah, a sculpture, I suppose you would say, where they've carved it in such a way that the stone looks like transparent lace, which technically should be impossible. And then we get this. This is the best we've got. You know?
Yeah,
I mean, can you imagine carving stone so well that it actually looks like transparent lace? So I think it was one of the Venus statues. So it's a statue of a woman, and she's wearing a lace shawl. But it's so incredibly well carved, it looks real. I mean, just, yeah, wow.
yeah. Oh wow! Look at those guys. They've got muscle,
Yeah.
back muscle.
There's a series, I don't know who did them, but there's a series of statues of gladiators.
Oh, this is Hercules.
Well, right there, he was a buff boykie, let's be fair.
Uh,
But the gladiator statues as well, you can really see the muscles. They're somewhat ripped.
yeah, and this guy's got a six pack. Yeah.
Damn. I got to admit, I wouldn't mind a six pack. I don't think it's likely I'll ever get one though.
Yeah.
It
But
is.
I don't know why they make the it's tiny compared to the balls.
There is actually a technical reason for it, apparently.
Oh, live restriction. Oh, they don't like statue balls. Okay.
Oh, my live visibility is restricted.
Yeah, it's probably because of the stone balls.
Okay, so I have to kick you off if I want to. Oh dear Lord, that
Yeah.
seems very mean.
Yeah, no, that's TikTok for you.
Art is not appreciated, alas. Nevertheless, to hell with it all, we shall carry on. So yes, guys, get everybody, share with as many people as you can, and make sure that we get as many people on as possible in defiance of the upset of art. So there. So yeah, the Chinese things are, they say, are 270 million years old, which sounds pretty damn good.
I don't believe it.
Why not?
250 million years old.
Oh,
The Earth was destroyed 60 years ago, 60 million years ago.
really?
Well, in big theory,
But we're still here.
99% of all life died.
I know, but these are stone towers, so they didn't care.
Mm. Well, what's it called? Let me have a look at it.
It's the Shilin Stone Forest. It's not really a forest. It's sandstone and limestone accumulations where you've had exposure to wind and things, making limestone geological formation, which is pretty damn cool. So they're known as karst towers, and what's quite interesting is that you end up with interesting plants around there because of the nature of the way the weather works around them. And that's just really cool. But now the legend that goes along with it, the forest is the birthplace of Ashima, a beautiful girl of the Yi people. After falling in love, she was forbidden to marry her chosen one, and as a result, in her sorrow, she turned to stone. And so Shilin Yi is named after her. So,
Did I spell it right?
no. If I could spell correctly myself. There we go. Like that. Shilin Stone Forest. And yeah, they are very cool. They do all kinds of local cultural things there, as you can imagine. So, and yeah, it's
Okay. Well, I got the same images with my spelling.
okay. Well, that's saved by Google. Did you get it? I really want to actually get this right because it will bug
No, I
me
know
now.
it's China because they've got those trees with a pink leaves.
Okay. I didn't know that specifically that was a thing. It keeps telling me now that they've changed what resolution I'm allowed to put up as stuff behind me, so I can't show the pictures I found, which typical as well. Good, hey. But yeah, there's the stone forest, which is so. But we are going to progress because we can into more and interesting things. And the next one is the Chocolate Mountains. And these ones caught my interest because the idea of chocolate mountains really worked for me. So imagine you're walking through the landscape and you suddenly come across a place where there are these huge mounds that looks like somebody's dumped a pile of chocolate and then it's sort of grown over. And they are geological formations in the Philippines, of all places. Weirdly enough, had I not left the church and I stayed on, they wanted actually to send me to the Philippines to work there, for varying odd reasons. Why they felt I needed to go there, I don't know. But they are called the Visayas, the Chocolate Hills. I am not going to... Yeah, I'm not going to try and say it in Filipino. Yeah, no. I know my... Yep, that's them. There are about
Looks like somebody was busy digging holes and they needed to throw the sand somewhere.
Right.
They made heaps of sand everywhere.
Absolutely. So there's over 1,300, maybe as many as 2,000 hills spread over 50 square kilometers. And they're now all covered in grass. But in the dry season, they all look like piles of chocolate. There are indeed on the
ancient creatures that lived there, that build it.
This is where these become interesting. So essentially, they are just domes. There are all kinds of towns in between said domes. And everybody in the sort of scientific geological community says no, they are natural formations. There's nothing about it. They're just like worn down ancient mounds. They are conical casts from the late Pliocene to the early Pleistocene, with marine limestone containing abundant fossils and shallow marine foraminifera and coral and algae. Okay, they're called cockpit cast, created by the combination of the dissolution of limestone by rainfall, surface water and groundwater, which is a very boring answer to it. But the cool answer is actually exactly like you have said, that they are in fact evidence of digging by either ancient culture or aliens, which pleases me immensely. I like the idea of that very much. They are very unnatural looking. That's certainly true. They are a protected thing now because of too much quarrying of them, but they are indeed proof that at one stage all of these islands were underwater. So maybe they are actually the result of undersea creatures digging, possibly mermaids. Who's to say? Because they're full with marine fossils and stuff like that, which is pretty damn cool. We know that there have been a number of earthquakes in the area that affected the hills, and grass fires have affected them as well. But now here is what the locals say as the story. So there were two giants, one in the north and one in the south. During a rainy day when the ground became muddy, they prompted worried the giant from the north instigated a mud-throwing fight. So if you're a South African, das mos kayla, nee. After a while, the battle climaxed into a fist fight, and ended up with both knocking each other to the ground and dying. And what was left of all the thrown mud that they flung at each other became the hills. So it was in fact the giants that caused it. So yeah. The other story is that giants lived in the area, and this was where the children of the giants used to play, and they would gather up the mud and bake them under coconut shells laid flat on the ground. And when they finished playing and the children went home, these strange mounds were left shaped like mud cakes that children had made under their coconut halves, making the hills. And it looks pretty much like that. You've got to be fair, right? So maybe that's how we got them. Proof of giants. I like that as a possibility too. I mean, come on. Now, the next interesting one is one which has turned up in other places. And we know that South America has some of them, but so does New Zealand. And these are giant stone spheres. So they are known as the, let me get this right, Muaraki boulders. Okay. Now, they are, again, geological features formed over millions of years through a process called concretion, where the concretions grow around a core, creating a unique pearl-like formation, which sounds like a really organic thing rather than a geological thing. I'm just saying. So, you know, there's an answer to everything. Now, if you go to Kuku Beach near Muaraki on the Otago coast in South Island, New Zealand, you will find these giant balls, basically. They're just giant stone spheres, some up to 2 meters wide and perfectly round. Some of them you can only see at low tide because they're on the beach. So why are they there? Nobody really knows. They say it's a natural thing, but really they do look like they were made by somebody. You're not allowed to touch the boulders. They're a protective item. But this is not the only place that weird stone spheres have been found. They're in the jungles of South America as well, I think. And is it New Mexico that they're also? Yes, I think it is, New Mexico. So they're around. And we're not really sure why. And just to knock them off as another naturally formed object strikes me as being really, really counterintuitive. I think ancient peoples or ancient aliens. I don't know, what do you think, Spooky? Are we going with ancient aliens?
No, I'm gonna go with animals.
Okay, now you've got my attention. Why animals?
They're extinct now, but who knows what type of creatures you could have had back then.
Well, in support of your theory, and to be fair, have you ever seen a dung beetle?
Yeah.
Now, imagine if there was a really, really big one and the ball that it left fossilized.
Okay.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
How big, though, would the dung beetle be to make a 2 meter across sphere?
Yeah. Well,
Biting
if
off.
you look at some ant hills. You get ant hills that are like 2 stories high,
You do, you do.
and that's today. But what if who knows what ants did millions of years ago, and what would happen with that sand? Wouldn't it turn back into rock after millions of years?
Quite probably. Now, I will point out to you something which we know to be actual scientific fact, that at a point, there were no plants on the earth as we know them. Now, we're talking way back in the time of dinosaurs. The majority plant life were fungi, mushrooms, giant ones as big as a house. That was because of the composition of the air and. So if you could get things that big in plant life, why shouldn't you get ants and dung beetles and things that live among mushrooms and stuff today back then? But just as our fungi and such are small and our ants are small back then, if the fungi were as big as a house, why shouldn't the ants and insects be that big?
Yeah.
I mean, it's reasonable, isn't it?
Who knows what type of structure they build? I mean,
Yeah.
I've got lots of birds in my yard, and they build cool little nests.
Oh, very much. I mean, weaver birds make the most amazing colonies.
But yeah, and there's lots of different animals that dig holes and move sand around to make houses.
Absolutely. And not just animals, fish,
Yeah.
birds. What are the.
I saw a funny video of these two fish that were fighting. They live in holes, and they keep on spitting sand into each other's houses.
Yes, I've seen that same video, absolutely. And they get quite aggressive about it. Yeah, there you go. Well, here's another one for you to explain for me then. The Giant's Causeway in Ireland. Now, of course, the ordinary answer is that we are talking about naturally formed stone columns. Yeah, they're 40,000 interlocking basalt columns, the result of ancient volcanic fissure eruption, part of the North Atlantic igneous province, acted during the Paleogene period, according to them, which is like the sort of story that, you know, yeah, you said that, okay, but it's boring. Now, these columns are absolutely hexagonal, which is pretty damn impressive. And they are indeed all fitting together. And here's a thing for you, okay? If this is such a natural occurrence, right? Why is it that it is only in one place in the world? Surely if it was a natural occurrence, it should happen in more than one place?
Yeah. Well, how does it look like?
Well, literally, if you made a whole collection of blocks, hexagonal columns, and stuck them all together, they are literally this very strange formation that looks unnatural. Okay, so you would go out there
Does it
onto
look
the
like
beach,
it's sliced?
and it looks like it's built out of Lego. So you've got an ordinary sand beach around, normal ground around, and then suddenly you've got these 40,000 hexagonal shaped stepping stones, basically, they're columns, all stuck in right next to each other. So they fit together, that are about 60 million years old. But my problem with these things is, if they're so natural, why are they only there? Right? So, according to the story, one of the famous stories around it goes back to a chap who was featured in a lot of Irish legends, and I mean, of course, Finn McCool, that wonderful guy whose name Finn is F-I-O-N-N, M-A-C, new word again, C-U-M-H-A-I-L-L, pronounced Finn McCool. Now, he was an Irishman and something of a giant, and he picked a fight with the Scottish equivalent, Benandonner. And legend has it that the giants hated each other. So one day, after enduring a certain amount of insults, he built a path to use as stepping stones to reach Scotland, which was ripped up by Benandonner. And this is exactly what the Giant's Causeway is. And it looks exactly like that. If you took a whole bunch of hexagonal stones and stuck them together down to make a garden path, that's what you're looking at. It exists nowhere in the world except...
And geologist says it's natural.
Correct. It's
And
entirely
60
natural.
million years old.
60 million years old, entirely natural, but
Okay.
you get
So,
it nowhere else.
so if they say it's natural, then they would have an explanation why it's natural.
Well, they say it's due to volcanic fissure erosion, which, again, if you've got erosion forming it here, why is it nowhere else in the world? It's not even anywhere else in Ireland.
Yeah. And there's volcanoes all over the place. Even
Exactly.
some active ones today.
Exactly. We have no lack of places, kind of conditions. So if it's natural, why only one beach in one country in the entire world? I call cover up. Let's go conspiracy. But we can go one better.
So what do you think it is?
Well, I think, you know what? Every one of these formations come up with the same answer. It's a natural geological formation. And you're like, at the very least, admit that it's an unnatural geological formation. Right?
Yeah.
Because, come on. I
If it
mean,
wasn't natural, you would have seen it all over the place.
right? We know, okay, flat-topped mesas, like you get in the southern part of the United States, are a natural formation. We know this because you get similar things all over the world. They're natural. You get them in other places. They form in a very specific way, and you can see that, right? But when you get something like this, where it's one beach in the entire world, it's not natural. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying giants are involved, could be aliens. All I'm saying is, let's be fair here. Geology hasn't got all the answers. But let's go to the Richat structure, the Eye of the Sahara, a circular geological formation in Mauritania, visible from space, formed by uplifted, eroded sedimentary rock, creating concentric rings, or cuestas, around an igneous core. Now, initially it was thought to be the impact crater of a meteor or something. But those idiots now believed it's an anticline with differential rock layering, eroding at varying rates, revealing a distinct bullseye pattern over what that means is they're talking shite. It's found in the Sahara Desert. It's about 40 to 50 kilometers in diameter, easily seen from space, with concentric rings of quartzite resembling a giant eye. It's got a core of alkaline igneous rocks surrounded by layers of older sedimentary rocks. Now, you go and look at something like this, and it looks like something was built. They do say that it was originally a geological dome that had a slow uplift with differential erosion, which is scientific babble speak for we know what it is, but we don't know how it formed. So again, either a meteor strike or alien landing site. Just saying. It is, of course, a natural landmark, which is the only one of its kind on Earth, but it's natural.
How old is this?
Well, millions of years. And there are those who say, actually, back when there was a lot more water floating around and not locked in the ice caps, this could have been the lost city of Atlantis. Now, it is a very interesting thing, and yes, it's huge. You can indeed see it from space. It is absolutely circular, which is pretty damn impressive. Again, it is the only one on Earth. So how you can call it a natural structure, I don't know. Because if it was natural, why aren't there more? Right? Now, we do question what else is there. We know that there are Archelaean artifacts that have been found in there, and Stone Age Arterian stone artifacts. So, from at least the late Pleistocene, around 145,000 years ago, up until about 29,000 years ago, people have been there, and there are tools and things. They won't admit that it could have been a city, because after all, that would be terrible. No, it's a natural formation that exists nowhere else. So again, we are going to call rubbish, and we're going to say that there must be more to it. It's at least an unnatural formation, even if geological. We can see that it's a couple of 100,000 years old. So absolutely, I mean, it's not a new thing. How old do they say? yeah, I don't even understand the words they're using. It's very, 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 very old. Um, and they're talking about um, a 40 AR age determination. I literally have no idea what that means in normal, but they were introduced between 230 and 200 MA. I don't speak that kind of, so millions of years, maybe. But people were in them over time. There is polymitic fragments in there, in the breccia, whatever the heck. Again, it's like massive amounts of scientific gobbledygook, making them say that they thought it might have been a meteor strike, but that doesn't make sense either. So essentially, geology doesn't know how it formed, why it formed, only that it has to be natural and it formed. But I'm still calling on an alien landing site because, come on, really? So we're going to jump to new and different, seeing as we've done deserts with a bit. And my goodness, this is slow. The next is the Spotted Lake in Ossouse, British Columbia, known as Lake Kiluk in the local language. It's in Canada for the rest of us. Okay, so basically it is a lake with a lot of minerals, including magnesium sulfate, calcium and sodium sulfates, and high concentrations of other minerals for whatever reason. But most of the water evaporates over the summer, which leaves these very colorful mineral deposits behind, and spots then appear on the lake in different colors dependent on the minerals. So the lake appears to be a spotted lake, literally, and you can walk across it around and between the spots, which is pretty cool. It's considered to be a sacred site by the local Indians, and apparently is very therapeutic. Typical humans, though, just because.
It looks weird.
It looks very weird. The
It
minerals...
looks like holes.
Correct. But the minerals were used in World War I to make ammunition. So, yeah, eventually the First Nations organization bought the lake and made it a sacred site, so you can't go and do anything to it. The Silex people do go for traditional reasons, but you get protection from it. And yeah, it really is weird. It's a spotty lake with little islands and little holes, and apparently even where the water remains, you get a layer of minerals hardening on the surface that can actually walk. At the very least, they haven't said it's a natural formation. It's just a really weird lake. And the fact that they haven't said it's a natural geological formation makes me wonder if, how they say, in terms of the other places we talked about they protest too much. Now, let's talk about the door to hell, or the gates of hell, as they are sometimes referred to. And this is actually a really weird place, and a very interesting one, and probably the most natural of all of the places we've got tonight. Go figure. Okay. It's the Danvazas gas crater, also known as the Shining of Karakum. It's a burning gas field that collapsed into a cavern near Darvaza in Turkmenistan. And the natural gas fires illuminate the floor and rim of the crater, and it has been burning since 1971, which is pretty damn impressive. Now, in terms of the gates of hell, this absolutely counts as. It is a giant fire pit that has burnt since 1971 till today. Because of the natural gas under the ground.
Why only 1978?
1971.
Why only then? When people started smoking.
What happened, you had this underground natural gas, and I believe what happened is they were drilling there, and there was a whole cave that had formed from the gas underground they didn't realize, and it collapsed in. And when it collapsed in, it caught fire. Some say that because the gases were very poisonous, it was deliberately lit on fire. But because the fuel just keeps coming for some reason, it's just never gone out.
It looks cool. It's nice images.
Oh, yeah.
But it's weird that it didn't create a massive explosion.
Well,
the gas
at the time, I think it did. Yeah. I think when the actual collapse happened, it did make a... Yeah. I mean, absolutely, it's a serious kind of issue in that regard. Now, they say that the fire has reduced down to a third of its original since 71. So it has started to finally burn off.
What types of gas is it? And it keeps on flowing out of the ground.
There's a lot of methane. So
people are not interested in harvesting it.
Well, you couldn't when it was burning, but now that it's reducing, they are indeed harvesting it. Now, in case you're wondering if this is a natural formation, the answer is yes, because this isn't the only one. There are other smaller ones as well around, some of which are not on fire, where the ground has collapsed away and there are gas emissions. Some of them are full of water, some of them are not. So this
that would be more natural than this. This is what happens when people fuck around.
Yes, they absolutely did and found out. So, yeah, absolutely. They did try to explore it, but not very well, on the grounds of you had to have a full body heat suit with self-contained breathing apparatus, because it's really hot and poisonous down there. So you can't just go have a quick checkout. But it is more natural than most of the other things because it's not the only one, in all fairness. Now, are you familiar with the concept of a geode?
No. No,
Okay.
what is that?
Now, I want you to imagine when you boil water, you get bubbles rising through it, right? As it boils.
Yeah.
Okay, now I want you to imagine water boiling, and bubbles do absolutely rise through it as they do in water, right? But what if, as the bubbles were rising, the rock solidified, right?
It's strange. Yeah.
And trapped. Okay, now, so what you've got is a stone ball with gas trapped inside. Now, we do know as gas re-solidifies, we're talking under extreme heat, it does form crystals. So a geode is quite literally a stone gas bubble that has hardened, and if you break one open, you get crystals all around the inside. It's very beautiful. I actually
Yeah,
have...
I've seen it.
Yes.
Like a purple crystal.
Amethyst is one type. You get other types. I've actually got one somewhere, which is pretty cool. And yeah, they look great. It's nice. However, what if you had an entire cave that developed the same way? How cool would that be? Now,
That would be very beautiful. I would move to that cave.
well, if you go to Niaca in Chihuahua, Mexico, yes, the dog is named after the place, in case you're wondering. Okay. So, Cueva de los Cristales, if you wish, the local, which is connected to a mine. That's how they found it. So it's a chamber in the limestone rock that at some stage was full of gas that then solidified, okay, from superheated gas. It's about 109 meters long, and it's got a volume of over 5,000 cubic meters, so it's big. And what makes it really, really cool filled giant selenite crystals ever found. The largest is 11.4 meters long, which is pretty damned big. I mean, so, you know, I mean, if you want to sort your chakras out, this is what you do. Now, the cave is very, very hot. When it's not flooded, it periodically floods. And temperatures can reach up to 58 degrees centigrade with around a 90 to 99% humidity, comparable to the temperature records in Death Valley. So, much wetter air though. So it's not a comfortable place. So exploring it would be very hard, and you could only do it small periods. So it's mostly unexplored, and without proper protection, you can probably endure only about 10 minutes at a time maximum. It was discovered in April of 2000 by two brothers, Juan and Pedro Sanchez, who were drilling in the mine. So the mine had re-flooded and the cavern filled once more with water, which allowed the crystals to start growing again. Now, what's really interesting is this is a living crystal cavern. In other words, the crystals ain't finished. It makes it really weird and interesting. And we're seeing something that ordinarily you would never get to see on such a scale. And yeah, some of them are even completely clear. Selenite, if you ever have seen it, is generally not that clear. So some of these are very clear, which is really cool. Most of them are cloudy, though. And these huge beams of crystal just sticking out, which is amazing. And I got to say that it's one of the places that I would like to go and see, purely because of how unbelievable it must look.
This image is probably fake that I've got.
Well, I don't know. The images, at least, that I've got are very, very interesting. Yeah, look at that. Yeah. That is kind of how it looks. And it's growing with selenite columns. In fact, some of the images I've got look even weirder. So, yeah, and it's real, and it's genuine, and it is pretty impressive.
But they've opened it now. It looks like there's water or something.
Yes, it periodically floods, which is why the crystals are still growing.
I'm not sure if this is snow or what that is. Or ice.
No, those are crystals, selenite.
Okay. And the purple?
Amethyst. So, let me find a big enough image that it will allow me to put one up. It is being annoying. That one looks promising. Now, along with it, because it's underground, there's very strange plant and animal life, like albino blind fish and stuff in the ponds, which adds to the whole freakiness of it, and that makes it very cool indeed. And some of it has gotten trapped in these crystals because they are still forming, which is even cooler. So we do like the idea of this as being a very, very scientific, very, very real, but unbelievably alien sort of a cave, which I like the idea of. Now, again, tonight's internet is being terrible. But they say they've weird life down there. So and now everything doesn't want. Oh, there we go. It's woken up. Hello. Let's see if I can haul it up now, if it lets me, so that you guys can see. and it's being slow again because everything's trying to load at once. You know, this internet. Why? Though it says that I've got full signal, I don't know. Even my notes don't want to open. Ah, there we go. Let's try this last go before we move on to salt flats. Oh, it so does not want to. Oh, there we go. There we go. Try harder.
No.
And no, it doesn't want to do it. Of course it doesn't want to do it. Because the picture that I had is far more crystalline than the one you had. And was pretty damn cool. And it was a good one I liked. Nevertheless, we are going to Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia. And basically in the Andes, in the mountains, southwest Bolivia, is the world's largest salt flat. A prehistoric lake that went dry, leaving behind a desert-like 11,000 square kilometer landscape of bright white salt and cacti-studded islands. It's really otherworldly, this is true. Wildlife and plant life is rare, being a salt flat, but you do get many, many, many pink flamingos, which is pretty damned cool. So it shows that you can get life of all kinds almost everywhere. So flamingos and cactuses on a salt flat, that's what you get. And it's called the salt mirror because it obviously being salt crystals, it reflects the light. And if the light catches it just right, you get the most amazing mirror sheen across the entire thing. But let's now go to something a little creepier. The Blood Falls. And you find this in Antarctica. Hypersaline water trapped under the ice for millions of years that has basically rusted. And so the moment it comes out to the air and starts to flow, because the ice is melting, it flows red. And it's full of strange microbes and such as well, which they reckon might offer clues to how life might actually develop on other planets, because it's grown under the ice without sunlight in frozen salty conditions. Very, very interesting. It's basically salty rust water. It is blood red. And it's what they call an extremophile ecosystem. So unique microbes that survive in total darkness with no oxygen, relying on iron and sulfites for energy, similar to Mars or Europa, which means there could be life on Mars and Europa. And yeah, it's really freaky because most of the area is this bright, blindingly white ice. And then you've got this blood red water flowing through, which is freaky as hell. So while it is indeed quite natural, in this case, yes, it is, it looks like it ought not to be. It's like serious Vampire Falls. I see Hamzaza has joined us. Welcome, welcome, sir. So yeah, freaky and weird and strange. And what this proves is that nature does not follow the rules of science. It does what it damn well pleases. Just like in the next one, in Lake Hillier in Western Australia, which is essentially a lake bubblegum pink. As a result of, again, microorganisms in the water. It's on Middle Island, part of the Recherche archipelago in Esperance, Western Australia. It's pretty remote and it's hard to get to, and it's very salty, which is why only these microorganisms thrive. You can swim in it, but the extreme salt levels might not make it very comfortable. But just like the Blood River in Antarctica, it is these same little halophatic bacteria that make it pink, which goes to show that at least the Blood River and the Pink Lake are a lot more natural than, say, the Giant's Causeway. Take that as you will. But it's interesting, nevertheless. But we're going to keep going and get creepier and weirder as we go along. Let's now visit the Grand Canyon. Now, you've all heard of the Grand Canyon. You know what the Grand Canyon is. And certain parts of the Grand Canyon you're not allowed to visit. And the question is, why? Now,
military presence.
What about the presence?
I said military presence. There's probably like a military outpost there.
Well,
maybe a nuclear weapon hiding away somewhere.
Here's where you are partly correct, but need to think even weirder. The official reason is that there are certain ecosystems that are protected in parts of it, and some bits are just way too dangerous for you to go to. So they don't let you go there. Now, one story is that, yes, there are military bases in there, and you're not allowed to go there simply because they're hiding their special bases. The next one is that a particular person, G.E. Kincaid, discovered an underground city with mummies and artifacts and hieroglyphs on the wall, the same as from Egypt. Now, how could that be? We don't know. Now, there are also a number of unexplained disappearances. So some people say that there are portals to other dimensions or time warps. Some say that there are evidence of ancient aliens or advanced civilizations, such as the Hopi's ant people. Yeah, you didn't know about the ant people, did you? But don't worry.
No.
We will talk about the ant people. And yes, your secret government facilities. Now, we do know that the Grand Canyon is very big. It's called the Grand Canyon for a damn good reason. And there are caves, often unexplored down there. So who knows what really is down there? However, it was an interesting thought exercise to me to say, what if that was found there? What would it mean for history? What would it mean for our view of the world or people if there was an Egyptian presence I mean, it would be interesting. What if aliens are down there? Well, there are all kinds of stories, and even the Hopi legends. The Hopi are the local Indian tribes there. Do talk of strange beings that live in these areas. So, maybe we need to know this. There have been a number of disappearances, most of which are explained entirely away as, no, but of course there are. People fell off and died.
Yeah, that's my first guess. They
Well,
fell off a cliff. I mean, the whole place is full of cliffs. You can just fall and get lost.
absolutely, it is full of hidden caves, many undiscovered, and people could very easily get lost or. We know the exact formation of it is complicated, but does make sense because it's essentially a crack in a tectonic plate, which we can work with. Native American law says that it is a very spiritual place, and there are all kinds of legends about what might be down there. So we're going to look into a couple of them, and you can tell me what you think. So let's briefly talk about the Ant people. Now, the Hopi are the local Native American tribe of that area, known for their deep spirituality, very skilled dry farming techniques, corn, beans, and squash, and what have you. I believe it was the Hopi that came up with the Three Sisters planting thing, where you plant squash and beans and corn in the same field and each feed off the other, making crops in areas that normally you can't grow, which is pretty good. They are farmers rather than fighters, which is pretty impressive. They view farming as a religious practice. They really put a lot of effort into it and were very successful. They also are known for their distinctive pottery, and it's not common for matrilineal clan types to exist, but there you are. They have a particular mud adobe structure that they build, and they often will build into cliffs using caves and building together. And yeah, they are really, really, really impressive. It is one of the sovereign nations, which is cool. Now, what about the Ant people? Now, they are known as the Anusinon, and according to the Hopi, they were humanoids developed from ants, and in the mythology, they sheltered humanity in underground caves during two destructive world ages. The first world was destroyed by fire and the second world by ice, providing food and teaching survival skills. Now, interesting about that is we know that in an extensively volcanic time, parts of the world, especially around North America, were very volcanic and would have destroyed a lot of things if they all erupted. So a destruction by fire. We know that in an ice age, there would be a lot of destruction from ice. So again, possible. Not saying it did happen, but possible. The Hopi were then taught by the Ant people, allowing them to survive and learn. The Ant people were guardians during these difficult times. They did live underground, like we spoke of in the very what came before. They were apparently pretty benevolent and wise, but then I suppose all ancient teaching types are shown as that. They lived largely underground in places like the Grand Canyon. Immediately, it is said that they are a symbol of learning, because nobody wants to admit there might be ant people. Maybe, however, they are still down there. So maybe we need to look into the idea of other races that people say existed, and modern science says, no, it can't, but maybe they did, and maybe they're hidden. We don't know. Now, we know that during the Cuban Missile Crisis, the US government designated the Grand Canyon Caverns, a dry cave system 210 feet underground, as a fallout shelter, and survival supplies for up to 2,000 people are still stashed on there, apparently. So yeah, it's a possible situation. We know that down there are literal towns that are now derelict. Old copper mines from the pioneer era, cabins, old Indian dwellings. There's all sorts of things. I mean, it only became a national park and got cut off to most things in 1919. So yeah, absolutely. There's huge amount of space down there, and the idea of an other humanity. We know that we have the snake people in India. We have the Tuatha De Danann in the British Isles. We have the Jinn of the Middle East, and we have the ant people of the Hopi. So there you go. Is it real? I don't know. It's a fair question. But it's interesting, isn't it? They say it's there. People say, we would know if it was down. Well, you were told. Now, how old is the Grand Canyon? Probably between 5 and 6 million years old, which geologically is okay. Not very old. Some say it's very, very old, up to 70 million years old. Hard to say. The trouble is, as we noted in one of our previous lives, rocks are rocks, and you can't carbon date rocks, at least not very well, because the rocks have been rocks for a very long time, which is kind of the point. We know that people say that if you take things from the Grand Canyon, because it is considered a holy site or a sacred site to the Hopi Indians, you will be cursed. And they say that lots of people keep sending the park rangers letters unsigned with stuff back so that it gets put back, because you will be properly cursed if you remove things. We know that the Grand Canyon is freaking it really is huge. So what is in there, it could include hundreds, if not thousands, of things that we just don't know about. We know that they said there were and spread around the world. How do we know that? How do we know that they didn't come, say, out of South America and to Africa and then around the world? Just because that's what we found, there's huge numbers of things in places that haven't been properly explored that might be the source of humanity. Isn't that true? I mean, just throwing it out there, right? I mean, we know the Grand Canyon is part of the Colorado River Basin, which has developed over 70 million years slowly. We know that the Grand Canyon is a giant crack that has had time, at the very least, to erode into a basic sort of smoother setup. We know that there's an older river that may have changed its course down there as well. It's wide enough and big enough for that, which really doesn't tell us a great deal. I mean, the rocks are old because, well, rocks are old. They're rocks. Do you know? We know that there is all sorts of different stones in there. We know that part of it, at least, probably was a sea, a shallow sea at one point, because there are fossils and such to show that, which shows again, of course, that the warming and cooling of the earth is cyclical and has happened before, throwing it out there. We know that there's differential erosion that has made the terraced walls, which, fine, and that ultimately it was formed by volcanic activity very, very, very long time ago. But none of that tells us whether or not the Egyptians had a city down there. A number of other people had a city down there. The Pueblo culture had some really good places. The Anasazi. Now, what's interesting, Anasazi is a Navajo word, which means the aliens. So, according to the Navajo, the people that lived in the Grand Canyon area were aliens. Now, did they just mean other peoples, not us? Or did they mean aliens? Well, modern science says definitely it just means other people. But is that the case? There's some very weird things around that part of the world, as we know. Strange formations, strange stories and more. And the Grand Canyon is big enough to hide a lot of secrets. So, yeah, it's up to you to decide what really might be there. Yes, sir.
When you mean aliens, do you mean like Mexicans?
Well, apparently, no. We mean ones like, as in UFOs, aliens.
Okay. So not people from Cuba.
Well, you know, these days you start to wonder. Though Venezuela is the current place to run away from.
Well, now people are moving back, or they've got big hopes for Venezuela since the US has taken over that place. They just have to elect the right people now.
And we have such a good track record of doing that, do we not?
Well, America, it seems like wherever America goes and intervenes with a country, they fuck up that country.
But nevertheless, and with that great happiness in mind, let's talk about the next interesting place, which is also in the Grand Canyon, and it's the Cheops Pyramid. Okay, now this is a butte or flat-topped mountain. It is, of course, as every one of these things is, a natural formation. It was named by George Wharton James, the Pyramid of Cheops in Egypt. So that's how it got its name. It's in a cold and semi-arid climate zone. It is a very large pyramid-shaped mountain, which is interesting. It's pretty cool. Is it a pyramid or just a mountain? Well, they say it's just a mountain and that they've checked it out and they know for sure. But that said, it does look suspiciously like a pyramid. I'm just saying. So who's to say? But that's enough of the so-called natural. Let's move on to the places that are absolutely not natural, like Poveglia Island, which is one of the most haunted places on earth because it was a plague quarantine site. India's Bangar Fort, the cursed fort. Mexico's Island of Dolls. And of course, Japan's Aokigahara Forest, the suicide forest. I mean, right away, you've got some pretty interesting places that I'm going to call it as being suitably creepy. So, as we go through these ones, we are going to see how creepy we can actually get. And whether or not you actually do think they might be haunted, or if you just think it's rubbish. Nevertheless, I will tell you that a number of very weird things have happened in the place. So, you know, it's suitably strange. So let's get stuck in. And right away with our first one, if it loads, good Lord, Poveglia Island near Venice. So when the plague hit Venice, Italy, they needed a place to put the plague victims because you didn't want them in a rather tightly built-up city. So they shoved them all on this island. After a while, as a quarantine station for plague victims, it was used as a mental asylum. And now it is called the Island of Ghosts, and is said to be one of the most haunted places in the world because of the huge amount of people that died there. It is off limits to visitors, partly due to its tragic part and crumbling abandoned buildings, though there was an effort to turn it into a public park, which just sounds really, really bad as an idea. So in the 1700s, it was a quarantine station where thousands of plague victims were sent, quite literally, to die, and hundreds of thousands of bodies were buried or burnt there, some of them maybe not as dead as they ought to be. In 1922, it became a hospital for psychiatric patients, and they say there were cruel experiments and lobotomies done by doctors who eventually jumped from the bell tower and committed suicide. The asylum closed in 1968, and the island has remained entirely uninhabited, with its overgrown and decaying eerie. Now, of course, it absolutely is said to be haunted. Fishermen refuse to go even fishing near there, afraid that they will pull up human remains with their nets, or worse. I don't know what can be worse than that. Haha, hee hee. We do know that they've wanted to do more to make it better. I don't know how you could do better than that. I'm sorry. Right there, that strikes me as being the sort of thing that doesn't really matter what you do, it's not going to get much better. Now, it's very forested. It's very pretty. I'll give it that. It's just off the coast in the Venetian Lagoon. Now, since the Middle Ages, it's basically been a place for people to die in. You do have a number of people who have visited and taken some pretty cool photos, which are absolutely creepy as hell, including old beds now sort of rotting away with vines climbing up the walls and so on and so forth. The locals think you're crazy if you want to visit, but of course that makes a lot of tourists want to visit. They do say that it is actually dangerous to visit because the buildings are not very good. We know that there are ditches that were dug across the island where they would just throw the bodies in. They do say that they were afraid that some of them were vampires, and so they were thrown into the pits with stakes through the heart and rocks forced into their mouths. And of course, because Venice was a very popular port, at the time they sent any passenger boat first to Poveglia Island, just in case, while they were quarantined to see if they were sick or not. But because there were so many plague victims and were on the island, a number of healthy people got there and immediately became sick, for all the obvious reasons. So, self-fulfilling prophecy in that regard. And of course, then turning it into a mental asylum didn't help. Now, one of the doctors working there did commit suicide, flinging himself from the clock tower, and they say his ghost still haunts the ruins. Another man was trapped in the tower in the act of ringing the bell, and nobody let him out because they didn't know he was there, and he starved to death. But locals say you can still hear the bell ring at night, and there is no bell there anymore. There was a patient that had his legs amputated that used to race around the halls of the asylum in a wheelchair, and those who have stayed overnight daringly have said that you can still hear the squeak of the wheels on his wheelchair as he gets around. There are absolutely a ton of sightings, rumors, and stories of things that have been seen, and people that went there saying it's all rubbish and we'll stay the night, have fled claiming they would never go back. So maybe it is indeed one of the most haunted spots in the world. And maybe it's just a story. Who's to say? Perhaps we will never know. But the next interesting place is Hoia-Baciu Forest in the Cluj-Napoca area in Romania, known as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. The place known for some of the most UFO sightings in the world. It has many mysterious disappearances and strange twisted trees. There are places where electronics don't work, where for no reason people feel anxious or afraid, where orbs of light are seen. It's weird. It is, of course, in Transylvania, in Romania, and we all know about Transylvania. The trees are bent at bizarre angles, all of them in the same way, in this weird loop. We know that there have been photographs of UFOs taken in the forest all the way back to 1968. We know that there are all kinds of legends of people vanishing, including a shepherd with his entire flock of sheep. We've had people report disembodied voices, light orbs, shadow figures, unexplained physical symptoms like nausea or rashes or bruises. And right in the middle is the clearing, a circular place where nothing grows, and scientists cannot explain why. It is very creepy at night for some, and others say they feel nothing. You can go and visit it if you want to. So if you're brave enough, why not? But is it the most haunted forest in the world? Because after all, we have others to add to the story. I mean, let's put them head to head. Japan absolutely has a number of interesting where did my note go? It don't want to turn up. The islands of Dole. There it is. It was hiding from me. So, the next place is Aokigahara Forest in Japan, known as the Forest of Suicides and Amnesia, which is pretty cool. It is a very dense forest, we know that. It is built up on lava that came from Mount Fuji back in the day. And absolutely it is a very thriving ecosystem. We know that it's big enough that they use drones for patrol and rescue, because it absolutely has become the place to go if you want to commit suicide. Which, yeah, it's pretty creepy. Now, what can we say about it? It's dense, it's on the foot of Mount Fuji, obviously. It is the leading site in Japan for suicide, with at least 30 people a year going to do exactly that. There have been a number of cases of what they call psychogenic amnesia following attempted suicides there. And clearly it's that kind of place. So, not a vacation spot in that regard, not a place for nice visits. But given the sheer number of people who've been interested in going, well, it just makes it kind of creepy because it gets more and more and more creepy. Why do people keep going there for this? Well, we're not really sure. We know that it happens. But more than that, we can't say. Let's talk about the island of dolls. Now, if you're into horror movies, let's be fair. Dolls are creepy little shits. We do not like dolls. Not in horror movies. Well, this one will freak you all the way. It is a tourist spot, believe it or not, on the canals of Xochimilco in Mexico City, famous for thousands of decaying dolls hanging from trees left by former caretaker Don Julian Santana to appease a drowned girl's spirit, creating a very popular destination for what they call dark tourism. You can get there by Trajinera, which is a flat-bottom boat. Many of these dolls are these fat little Cupid type dolls, and they're freaky on their own. It ain't nice. So Don Julian Santana, the island's former owner, found a girl drowned in one of the canals and later found a doll floating nearby and believed it belonged to her. So he began collecting dolls and hanging them on trees to appease her spirit. The twist is that some say the dolls whisper in the dark, and that maybe the girl never truly existed, or that the ghosts of children go to inhabit the dolls. We do know eventually that Don Julian committed suicide in the same canals, quite mysteriously. Was it suicide? Or did the ghosts of the dolls, the dolls, finally come to get him? Yeah, it's freaky. I would not go there. I'm sorry, I don't do dolls. I don't like them at the best of time, and the idea of thousands of dead girl dolls does not make my life happy at all. That's one that's all for you. You can have it. I ain't going. But we have more, and why not? Because we like more. Looks like it's going to be a straightforward ghost story, which is far more creepy than haunted dolls. It's a pretty cool stone fort out in the highlands, surrounded by a very pretty landscape. I have not visited it myself. I'd love to. It's a 16th century fort built in Rajasthan in India. I'd love to go there. It's one of the places I'd like to. It was built during the Bhagwant Das as the residence of the second son of the Bhagwant Das, who was called Madho Singh. And it's still very, very well preserved. It's a lovely site, very, very interesting. However, let's go to the creepy part. it's an interesting place that was cursed by the Guru. Adverts popping up. Guru Balunath, which caused the entire town below it to be evacuated. Balunath cursed the town, saying that the moment the shadow of the palace touched him, the city shall perish. One of the descendants built the palace to such great heights that it did reach Balunath, and they say that the city of Bangas was immediately destroyed. This is an ancient myth. Another story says that Singya, a well-versed occult magician who used to live in the region, fell in love with the charming princess Ratnavati of Bangas, and since there was no way he could attain her, he decided to use black magic to enchant the oil that she would use, so that the mere touch would hypnotize her and she would surrender herself to him. Early tantric occult date rape and all. However, the plan was foiled as the princess learnt of his intentions and she threw the oil away. But the oil touched a stone and the stone rolled down the hill to the wicked magician and crushed him. And while dying, Sangya cursed the palace with the death of all who dwelt in it. And the next year there was a battle between Bangas and Ajabgarth, and the whole place was slaughtered, and the princess Ati died as well. Now, since then, they say that locals refer to the place as Bhoot Bangla, the haunted house, and there is all kinds of paranormal activity there. Ghosts and ghouls roam the fort with strange noises and bizarre activities being commonplace. Tourists claim to have seen apparitions along with reports of music and dancing coming from within the city and fortress. And they say that nobody dares go there after sunset, and those few who did never returned. So now there is a signboard that the government of India set up warning people, do not stay after darkness. Now, one such incident is 2 young boys decided to spend the night there and never returned home. Another boy then decided to visit the fort during the night and fell into a steep well located in the middle of the fort. He was rescued by his friends and rushed to hospital, but on the way, those taking him in the car crashed in an unlikely accident, and all 3 died on the spot. So if you are claimed, you're not going, no matter what. They say that it's a sort of place where strange things have happened. Driving past, only people in 2 seats in a bus were injured, passing by for no reason. How, we don't know. We know that a group of tourists bribed the keeper to let them in after nightfall, and found a boy sitting alone inside one of the rooms. The creepy part is that there were no doors to the room and no windows, and the boy was just there. And when they turned back to look, he just disappeared. So ghosts are down there, they say. People have obviously gone with all sorts of photography and more to try and capture ghosts, and I suppose you too can go and do that. They say that there are mysterious cold spots showing up on What do you call that photography? Infrared. Night vision photography. Yes. Now the next place is one of my favorite, and it's come up in so many of my lives because it's connected to so many things, and it is an absolutely real place, and I love that fact. Those of you who have read Mary Shelley's Frankenstein might remember it as a really good, if early, horror story. But Frankenstein Castle is real, and the doctor that lived there was real too. And he was an early medical doctor, and absolutely did do experiments on bodies in the castle, eventually becoming so macabre that even the locals threatened to storm the castle and destroy it if he didn't stop. So the real Victor Frankenstein, in case you don't know, was not the monster at all. It was the doctor. The monster that he made was, or his creature rather, was actually quite nice. And in fact, in the original book, he is described as being quite good looking and was a nice guy. The problem was not him. The problem was the doctor. He was the monster. The story of Victor Frankenstein and his self-created monster, this is a quote from the castle itself. This is something from Mary Shelley's novel, Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, originates from the actual Frankenstein castle, built on a 370-meter high spur of the Langenberg mountain, southeast in the Darmstadt district of Eberstadt, in the municipality of Multal, the northernmost series of castle ruins of the Odenwald forest over the Rhine plain. And yes, it looks exactly like you would expect a castle to look, where you could have proper Frankenstein-y experiments and more. And it stood there for hundreds of years, for much of it in the ownership of the same family, which is rather interesting. It is a real place indeed, which goes to show that horror is based almost entirely on reality. Think about that for a moment. Now let's talk about the hanging coffins of Sagda, and we shall carry that on tomorrow, along with something else interesting in this theme as we go along. So I will bid you good night, and I hope you've enjoyed, with the thought of what kind of hanging coffins might there be and why. And we will answer your questions on the morrow. And I do hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you're suitably creeped out, and that you realize something that perhaps you ought to have. We know far less about the world than we think we do. And there's a lot more out there than you believe. Good night.
Good night. Cheers.